Good morning. Hi, I'm Bob Pace. I'm your host this morning on a show that's called The Secret and how to get back your stolen children this morning. We're going to talk about. And you're probably wondering, what do you mean by stolen children? Well, this show is produced live. It's through Facebook, put on YouTube, and there's three ways you can interact with this show. The first way is that you can um, text comments in during this show, and they will appear on my screen. I'll see them in my comment section, and you can ask questions. Also, this show is not only about how to get back your stolen children, it's how to fight child protection services, which in my case, and many cases of over the hundreds of people I've talked to, have stolen their children, have broken apart their families, and did not do the purpose they're supposed to do, which is called family reunification. That word does not exist in CPS. And you'll find out. Now, CPS, Child Protection Services, may have other names, but it's all part of social services. And they're supposed to protect our children and families to keep them together and so forth. A second way to interact on this show is that you can call in right now. You can call me at 626 698 0990. That's my phone, and I'll patch you through on my speakerphone, and you can talk on the show. The third way is to schedule a guest appearance on the show on a particular time and date that suits you. You call in 888 6582. That's my office. Mention that Bob Pace sent you. Now, those are the three ways you can interact. But I'm also here to tell you another secret. There's a really good lawyer that produces this show. It's Vincent W. Davis and Associates, and the attorney is Vincent Davis. And the show is a live show, and um, uh, it talks about the Child Protection Service and Social Services where you'll need an attorney. He's a family law attorney. He knows how to fight CPS. He's a trial attorney, very experienced. And he's somebody that will offer you a free 30-minute up to an hour strategy talk with him about how to fight CPS and how to get your children back. If you like them, retain them. And I'll tell you a little bit about the importance of having an attorney, but I wanted to put that in. He can be scheduled for the consultation at my office at 888 6582. Mention that Bob Pace sent you and that you want to be scheduling a time to talk to Mr. Vincent Davis. He is in Southern California as well as I am, but he goes to Northern California and all 50 states. He does travel. And if if you want a good attorney, because why do we need an attorney? Why am I talking about attorney so soon in the show? Well, the agency that you have to deal with is very tricky. You have to be able to navigate through the alleged, and at the time that the comments come in or the allegations come into the agency, it's not really alleged. They think they believe them, whatever it is they're saying. So you have to be able to navigate through them. You need to know who can fight for you, and you need to know the petitions and so forth. I realize right now that getting an attorney may be hard on you, especially if you're like me that experienced financial um, loss. Um, at the time that I was going through my child protection services, it was in 2015. And I had lost my job at age 60 through no fault of my own. and I'm out there looking for work. And at 65, because that I was broke, I was possibly losing my home, and I had a young family of children. I have 6 kids. 3 are older, 3 are younger, and the older ones are doing okay. They're really doing fine. The older ones, they're okay too. But my children were stolen from me, and I had a hard time about 3 years, and I got back only 2 of the 3. I'd hired Mr. Davis to be my attorney, and I'm glad I did. But I waited too late. I brought him in at the tail end of the thing that was a mess. My case was a mess, and I wish I had had him sooner. Maybe would not have lost one of my children. Um, it's a horrible experience to be faced with this because when they make allegations, whether they're by professionals like school teachers, firemen, policemen, or counselors, or by a family member, maybe your children, maybe your own side of the family, which was my case, my wife's side of the family, had numerous phone calls to the agency with complete lies, storytelling. It was so bad. I mean, they were saying things that, oh, you don't have electricity for your children, therefore you can't feed them. You can't go. You don't have. You're not paying for your things there. That was far from the truth. I had every bill. I showed how I was constantly still paying, even though I'd lost a job and my savings were dwindling down. Um, Losing a job is a traumatic experience, and I thought at my age that I could still get one. I'm 74 now. I did find a job, by the way, about a year and a half ago, but they decided there wasn't any more work to give me, so they laid me off. It's really easy for people to be laid off. I know that a lot of people are being laid off recently. I mean, I heard that the Sports Illustrated lost a lot of people, lost their whole staff. National Geographic yesterday was being hit with a lot of people being laid off there. There's been strikes and so forth. So losing a job is a terrible experience to go through. But also involvement with CPS is really bad. And you're probably wondering, why is it so bad? Well, at my time of life, I'd worked a long years. I mean, I've been working for 59 years. I started at age 15. I moved out at 18, and I've bought in 4 homes and self-sufficient and raised 2 groups of families. And um, yes, I was married twice, and this second time around was really bad, really hard on my wife. She has gone through so much of a hard time. She has a lot of medical issues, a lot of emotional issues, but her faith in God have kept her strong. And she is a remarkable woman, my wife is. And she put up with so much. She found out through this proceeding that she was abused when she was quite young. Her mother scolded her with hot water, scolded her with hot coffee. She almost drowned because they were threw her in the pool that she couldn't sweep and she begged not to be thrown in. Her brother molested her. And that's a traumatic experience. Here's a little child that being exposed by her brother who didn't know anything better. The parents weren't there to protect her. Um, she went to a concert. Her parents at 15 didn't say she shouldn't go. She was raped. Her older sister, who was over 18, took her, but she didn't protect her. They were all getting buzzed and drinking at the concert, and they were too relaxed. They did not believe such a thing. My wife, who's very innocent, went to the bathroom, lost the friend of her sister who went with her to the bathroom, and her friend or her sister left her there, thinking that maybe she could find her way back. But you know, concerts, they're big and huge. Well, she came out looking, and of course, these 2 guys said, "Hey, can we help you?" She's very attractive, she's very young, and instead of helping her, these two guys took her off and raped her. And her first experience of sex was having a child. And she did not do an abortion, even though she could have. She gave that child life. And I'm glad she did, because that child today, is one of our children. He's in his 40s, mid 40s, and he is a JAG in the United States Air Force, leading a very productive life. And he's married to an attorney, and they both of them are raising two children. So we have two grandchildren. So, she was smart about that. But then she got raped again. And a guy said, oh, she wouldn't get pregnant or something like that. And she had a second child. This child came to me with her mother, and I met them. And I took them both in. And a relationship developed. And I adopted this young child who now is in her mid-30s, working as a counselor. She went to school, got degrees, masters, and so forth. She'd lead a productive life, has a home, and has two children. So we have two more grandchildren. And so those two children to go out. The third child was my firstborn, and that was for my first wife. And she's not seen me since she's been 3. It's been so sad when you lose a child. Their last words in your mind are, Daddy, don't go, Daddy, don't go. But my first wife was determined I'll never see my child again. She makes up stories. And I tell you, storytelling is one of the arts that people abuse and use. And that's how it gets started with CPS. Someone calls in, and by law, CPS has to investigate. And there'll be charges, allegations that come in. And these allegations will say that you've done something. Like one guy that's on the show from North Carolina said that his fiance's ex-husband was trying to make muck with her children, their children, and said that her fiance was feeding carpet to the children. Now, that's a little far-fetched. I mean, I don't think even billy goats would eat carpet. But those are some of the wild allegations. My allegations were by family members that were jealous. They were jealous from day one. When I met my wife, and we later developed a relationship, and then we married. They didn't show up at the wedding. That's how much that her family didn't like her, which is sad. My parents showed up. My parents are very loving. And they showed up my first wedding, and they showed up my second wedding. And so it was sad. It was sad because it's important that family members there, but it's also important that family members support each other. It's terrible when other family members meddle in something they don't understand or don't want, or they want to cause harm. And they did cause harm. They broke us. They broke me financially. They broke my wife and our children. We had 3 children together, and 2 of them were with us, luckily. Vincent W. Davis got them back, but one daughter, our youngest daughter, is not back. And she was convinced and brainwashed and alienated from the parents. I use the word alienation because I'll talk to you about that in a little bit. That we were bad parents, and that the foster care parents that she was staying with were great. They had money and they could take care of her. Well, there's something I'll call money. CPS and money go together. And why I say that, it's a $1 billion business. The agency that worked with me was in Southern California. They have a building. They have 2 buildings. There are several buildings, but one building that the staff and management sits in is the Taj Mahal. It's a beautiful green building with glass windows and walls, and it's very, very expensive looking. And at first, when I was involved in CPS, I tried to fight them. And what I mean by fight them is through emails. I was very professional. I did not argue or yell at them or say bad things about them. And I asked to speak to the top dog. First, I started out with the managers. They weren't doing anything, and so I had to go to the top dog. He did talk to me because I have a knack of talking to CEOs and tops of companies because I'm a CEO myself. And so I know how to talk to people. And I thought me explaining things to them, they would be honest and helpful. But I found them very untrusting, very deceiving. They're not transparent, and they're evil. They're evil. I've never seen an agency as evil as a CPS agency in the Southern California area. And this backs me up because I've talked to hundreds of people on this show, and people have called in and told me their story. And this last couple of weeks, there's some horrible stories about a grandmother that wants her two grandchildren back, or about a person that was in uh, foster care at age 3, grew up to 18, was so corrupt and abused through the system. She started having relationships and marriage and children, and they're taking her children, and they're calling her a nightmare. Um, Everywhere I talk to, whether it's North Carolina, Florida, Texas, um, Pennsylvania, New York, even the Indian reservation, and I'm talking about the Lakota Sioux Reservation in Rosebud, South Dakota. Now, you're probably wondering, why am I talking about American Native Indians? Well, I'm American Native Indian. You look at me and say, oh, wow, he doesn't look like that way, and he doesn't talk. Washtay. I know some Lakota Sioux out there, and they're beautiful people and so forth. The reason I bring them up, there was the Indian Child Welfare Act that was passed in 1979, and that Indian Child Protection Act was the purpose of integrating that the tribes will take care of their own children. So if social service investigates Indian children or children that belong to a tribe, whether registered or could be registered, ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act, says that a child protection, child and child protection should be turned over to the Indian tribe. The tribe will take care of their own families, reunite them, and help them go through the hard times not being there. This way, they're very fair. They don't cheat, they don't lie, and they don't steal. And so I'm telling you about that, is that that's one way to keep your children out of become a slave of CPS. Now you're probably wondering, what do I mean by a slave of CPS? Well, CPS has a way of alienating your children from you. Alienation happens all over the place. It used to be thought that there was parent alienation when one parent is a custody battle going through a divorce and trying to alienate the kids. What that means, they're trying to make the parent look bad so the kids will think bad. Well, that's what CPS does. They sit there and they must have thought I'd done something horrible. Every case I've heard of, and some of them heard that people had drug problems or maybe they hurt their children and so forth. They think they're all the same. The CPS agency where I live doesn't know the difference. Not only is the agency corrupt, the legal system down there, the dependency court where your case is trialed, the dependency court, family dependency court, the judge is crooked. These judges are are terrible. They have no background in family law. They're elected, of course, but this judge that was my case was great at property damage and how to do property claims, but he knew nothing about having a family come back together. So the reason I mean bringing that up is this is election year, and you need to vote. You need to go out and vote this time in November for good judges in the dependency courts. Good judges everywhere. You need them there. That the differences between dependency court and all the other courts is that you are guilty by the allegations until you're proven innocent. All the other courts, you are innocent till you're proven guilty. You're innocent till you're proven guilty, but you'll find out in CPS, in dependency court, you are guilty until you're proven innocent. It is so bad, these allegations. They are required by law, Child Protection Services, to investigate every allegation. They're required. So if someone calls in and says something, they have to follow through, and that's how I get started. Step one is investigating the allegations, or step one is the allegations. In my case, there's family members saying ridiculous things, trying to hurt our family and to break our family apart. They're doing alienation. Alienation could be with family members, it could be with mother and father, it could be at your workplace, it could be a lot of different places. And so, with that being said, I had a rude awakening to a government agency that I thought would help me. And you think of social services to take care of just the food and the medical and housing and get you to work, but they do a lot more. They have that branch of child protection services that is a watchdog over children. So if allegations come in, they investigate it. But they also have things they need to um, do. They're required to do. Um, Things you need to know uh, when Child Protection Services gets involved. They're going to try to intervene in your relationship with your children, and it's a very terrifying experience because they're not friendly. They're going to make allegations, and what they did with me for months, they kept repeatedly calling me and saying this and this is this and this is this. I did meet with them a couple times outside of the home. Um, I think one time I did have them in my home, and they saw there was nothing wrong at the time of doing it. So they've been going on for a couple months, and it's been going on ever since I lost my job. My job was lost in 2010, and they've been investigating me soon after my job because what happened is that, and I didn't know this. My wife did not know it. Her family members were calling in reporting things. They were trying to be clear. They didn't know what was going on. And they were thinking they've been always after us anyway. They didn't want us to have children. They didn't want us to get married. And they thought, well, now we'll ruin the family. And they did. They did. They ruined a perfectly functional family. The only hiccup I had was that I had lost a job. I was low on income. And so I had a very Spartan lifestyle in a very beautiful home that I was trying to hang on to. And things like Disneyland passes I wasn't renewing because they're just expensive. I think it's $2,500, $3,000 for one pass for a year at Disneyland. That's a lot of money. Um, we weren't going to movies. We weren't going on our camping trips. We did. We still maintained the scouting. Both boys were, one was in Cub Scouts, one was in Boy Scouts, and they were very much interested. One son wanted to be Eagle, the other one wanted to get to Weebles, then go into scouting too. He wanted to be an Eagle too. Our girl was into Girl Scouts. All the children were into soccer. It was a sport that I could barely afford, but they gave me a break because I offered to referee as an intermediate ref, so I could referee the games, and they could let my kids play AYSO soccer, and they were good at it. So we were very much involved with our kids. We did function. We lived down at the beach, a couple blocks from the beach. Beautiful ocean out there. So we had bike rides. We had surfing. We had picnics and so forth. We also traveled. When I was working, I traveled twice, 2 weeks a year, and I traveled to exotic places: Portugal, Brazil. I've been around the world. I've been in almost every country there is, a lot of South Pacific countries, through my love of surfing. Surfing's been my life since '56. I started surfing, and I was introduced to surfing on Oahu, and then learned my surfing skills on the island of Guam. Before there was surfers there, I didn't really get to know some surfers until I returned in the late '50s in California and met Hobie Alter of Hobie Surfboards, who got me started. So I've been a long time surfer. I know them very well out there. It's a beautiful lifestyle. It's a beautiful time there. But my life was interrupted because this CPS intervened with our relationship with our Jerifine, and I did not have the knowledge, and I did not know how to enforce my rights because they are tricksters. That's why I keep saying you have to hire an attorney. You need to hire an attorney, and that attorney is somebody that will help you navigate and help you go through the system. Like right now, do you know what a 388 is? I didn't. Your attorney does. I found out later. A 388 is a petition that is typically brought to request a hearing to modify, change, or set aside previous court orders, or to terminate juvenile court jurisdiction. You have to understand, juvenile court, the dependency court, lots of names for it, family court, takes care of anybody under the age of 18. And that's where your children will fall into place. And if there's changes in circumstances or new evidence, you need to file that petition. So that's why I talk about a 388. There's so many petitions, so many different laws, so many things that it's very important that you have an attorney. And I cannot emphasize enough. I started out very terrible. After the months and months or years of allegations not being true, one day they used the police department, the local police department, conned in to say there's something terrible happening at my home. And I was tricked to follow this detective home. And when I arrived at my home, there was 3 social workers, 5 firemen, 2 code enforcement, 2 uniformed policemen, and the detective, all standing in my front yard. Well, I thought, my God, did the house burned down? Did someone break in? Did someone, I mean, I was going through hard times because um, the guy, my house is they were trying to foreclose my house. And I was making the payments and working through the system on that. But one guy that picks up houses, and he's a con artist, really mean guy, decided to break my door down to see what's inside. So he broke my door down and of course the lock and everything, and busted the door down and looked inside and invaded my privacy. I called the police department. This police department did nothing. In fact, they were so bad. One time I lost $15,000 in cash money and things I left in the shopping cart. The film showed who the guy was. We tracked him down, got the guy's driver's license, and he was in LA. They wouldn't do anything. So this is the police department. My 2 times involved with them, or I could say several other times, because they had a horrific riot on the beach at a surfing contest. And I'm telling you, they do not know how to handle. Policemen are good people. I'm not going to downplay a policeman. They put their life on the line. There's a lot of hell they go through, and they don't get paid very much. But there are some bad apples everywhere, and I guess I had a chain reaction to something. So this police guy conned me to come to the house. I'm staying with my 9-year-old son, who's trembling with all these people, looking up his dad with his loving eyes, and said, "Why are these people here?" Now, one time, several months ago, they tried to talk to my children, and by law, they can talk to your children at school. But the school has to call the parents to be in an adjacent room. So after they talk to the parents, you could find out what's going on. Well, they talked to my children, trying to think something was terrible at my house, asking them questions. They said nothing's wrong. They said, "Please help Dad. Please help Daddy. His mom and dad are dying. He's brought all his belongings, their belongings in the home, and he needs storage. He needs help." Did the police offer any help? Did the social workers offer any help? Did the firemen offer any help? Did the code enforcement offer any help? They were determined to find something, because they knew deep inside there wasn't anything wrong with his family, except the dad didn't have a job and he was hurting for money, and he's trying to live a lifestyle that he can longer afford. My lifestyle was a very expensive lifestyle. And so when I got hit, it got hit a big time. I don't know if the $65 million judgments against Trump is going to make him stop uh, talking mean about people, but it may hurt him in his pocketbook. But I was really, really devastated by these people. So the trick they use is that by law, you can't enter your home. Your home is your castle. So do not allow policemen, do not allow social workers into your home because they may see things that may look bad. You need to get an attorney. I can't emphasize the need of attorney. That's why I want to remind you all that we have an attorney here at Vincent W. Davis and Associates law firm. We have lots of attorneys, do lots of legal matters, but there's one area that you may need is family law, and a family law attorney is Vincent W. Davis. He has numerous years defending families, bringing families back together, and fighting CPS. He's even sued CPS and won. He's one of the few attorneys in the country that have bite the bullet, went into and sued their things from lies, from your civil rights being violated. I have so many things. I have a great lawsuit that someone could get a hold of and make themselves millions of dollars because what they did to me was wrong. My civil rights were violated, and they denied me access to my daughter when she was taken from me. I did not see her from the age of 12, and now she's 21. That's just as hard as my first daughter that was taken from me from my wife at the age of 3, and she's now 32. And that's hard. I can't go every night, every day that I don't think about my daughter. She's very dear to my heart, and so is my other daughter. My oldest daughter is fine. She left the house at age 25 before this incident with CPS started, but she lived at home with her parents and stuff, and she's doing well to do. But my two young daughters, one through a vindictive wife, and the other one through brainwashing by CPS. I don't know if they're vindictive or whatever it is, but they were angry because I stalled them coming into my house. And the reason why I didn't let them in my house at this time is because my parents' belongings were in the house and it looked cluttered. There were stacked boxes and there was furniture. And that's the only thing they found wrong with me, besides me and my wife having arguments. And that's a form of domestic violence, having arguments. But you need to have an attorney to weed through all this. And that's why you need to call this law firm, 888-888-6582. And mention that Bob Pace told you to call in and ask for Vincent W. Davis. He will give you a 30-minute to a 1-hour strategy meeting to discuss your case, to fight CPS and how to get your children back. And you'll like him. You'll like him so much you want to retain him. And he has a nominal fee. He charges more for Northern California and a little bit more when he goes out of state. But he'll fight your case, whether he was in Oklahoma this past week. He was in Northern California this past week, so I know he gets around. I know he gets around. So, please call in at that number. Also, you can call at that number 888-888-6582 to be a guest on the show. I'd love to have someone else talk besides myself. We have guests all the time. My shows are on at 10 o'clock in the morning and at 7 o'clock at night via Facebook on the YouTube channel. And so you can call in and mention my name, Bob Pace, say I wanted to talk on the show, and tell them what day and time, and they'll fit you in. Also, right now, if you're watching it, and I hope all you are, you can call in now at 626-698-0990. That will take you to my phone, which is beside me, and I can put you into the show via speakerphone, and you can talk about your case. Of course, the third way you can interact with this show is texting, making a comment where it says comment where you're watching the show, and the comment I will share and try to answer your question. I do need you to state your location and your name, your first name, if you choose to do so. But anyway, I'd love to hear from you. This show is very emotional, and I know all of you out there watching are very, very emotional. Your case is very important to you, and it's important that you get your children back. And there may be hiccups along the line. In my case, there wasn't drastic hiccups. It was fighting a system that's corrupt, and you're going to find that system is corrupt. Um, they lie, these shapes, after the allegations and after the intensive investigation, then using the police force to go into my home, and like a fool, I let them in. I should have said, you need a court order or a warrant. It has to be signed by a judge. It has to be specifically who they need to see and what it is about. If they don't have those documents, you can't let them into your house, and I could have done that. I should have called my attorney right away. Okay, I think we got a call in now. Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you speak up?
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. Who's this I'm talking to?
My name is David. I live in Arizona.
Okay, David, is it okay I put you on the show and tell your story?
Sure.
Okay, David, you're in Arizona. You have a CPS case or something involving your...
Arizona, it's DCS, the Department
Okay.
of Child Services.
Yeah, Department of Child Services, DCS. Yeah, that's the same thing. But what's happened with your case, David?
Well, if we have 5 minutes, I'd like to give you a little background.
I can give you now. I have about 40 minutes left here, so you got plenty of time.
Okay. This is our third DCS case. The original case was in 2017, and I was in a drug court program at the time. I had been clean and sober for 2.5 years. I had convinced my wife to go into rehab, which she did. And while in drug court, a probation officer came to my house to drug test me, which he did. I tested clean, but in the process, she found my adult son and his girlfriend to have drugs, and they were arrested.
Were they living in the house?
Drug court,
Were they living in the house?
No, they did not live in the house.
So how did they find them?
They were visiting.
Oh, they're visiting. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And their children were at the house at the time. They were arrested. They left the children with me along with my 2 children.
Right, because...
And unbeknownst to me, DCS sat in on the drug court staffings. I didn't know that at the time. I went back to drug court. We go every week the following week, and I was put in jail for 2 weeks as a sanction because somebody was found with drugs in my house and not allowed to associate with anybody on drugs.
That's with minors. Any child that's under the age of 18 cannot be exposed or be around drugs, whether you have them or your adult son has them or anybody else. So that's why they arrested you. It's a law, but you can work through it. It's complicated, but yes.
Right, and again, I didn't have drugs. The children were exposed to drugs. They were on the person of my son's girlfriend
Right.
at the time, and he had a warrant out for his arrest, unrelated.
Okay.
Anyway, fast forward, so then the judge gives me a couple of days to report to jail for this 2-week sanction, and I leave the kids in the custody of my mother, and I give her a note saying she can take them to the doctor, whatnot. And in the interim, my son gets out of jail and takes his kids. And long story short, he goes to Montana and leaves with his kids. The day before I get out of jail, I get visited by DCS in jail, and they have taken custody of my 2 children because they said that they weren't left in the proper care, or that
who are your 2 kids?
They were unsupervised or uncared for.
Well, who your 2 kids were left with? I thought they were with your mother.
They were with my mother.
So why would they say that your mother cannot supervise them?
Well, I'm actually filed an Amber Alert, and while my mother was en route from Kingman to Lake Havasu, which is very close to the California border, they actually filed an Amber Alert and claimed she was trying to flee with the children. Anyway,
Wow.
they did. They took custody of the kids. I get out of jail the very next day. I immediately go to the DCS office, speak with the investigators, and I'm told, and this is not an exaggeration, we don't want your kids, we want your grandkids. And they had several attempts to contact my son, and several open cases that they had to close because they could never contact him. And they were trying to do that. And at this point, my son is taken off to Montana with the grandkids.
Yeah, he's trying to run. Yeah, he may know something bad about CPS. I don't know, but now you don't have a partner or a wife for these children. Is just you raise them alone?
No, I do. My wife was in a 30-day rehab when this happened.
Oh, okay. So okay, all right.
Okay. Long story short, make it as concise as possible. I hire an attorney. We pay him $10,000. They file what was at that time a Rule 59 hearing. We immediately return the kids. We get the kids back 29 days later. During the Rule 59 hearing, we agreed to 6 months of services if they would give us the kids back that day, and they did. We completed the 6 months of services without a hitch, and everything was fine. We had our kids. Fast forward a couple of years, the son comes back from Montana with the grandkids.
Oh boy.
They get the grandkids. They take custody of the grandkids, and the kids, him and his wife, they go through a drug rehabilitation program, and they're doing well. They're just about ready to get the kids back. And DCS suddenly comes up with claims that my son has molested my granddaughter. And long story short, again, I realize times this crazy story, and that's really the intention of my call, is to get some advice on if somebody's really being abused by the agency, where do you go from there? Let me finish.
Sure.
So we hire the same attorneys. We pay them $10,000 again. This time it takes a lot more than 29 days. DCS brings in forensic child psychologists on 2 occasions. They have the Kingman Police Department do an intensive investigation. They find nothing in either case. Then they bring in the Sheriff's Department to do an investigation. Again, they find nothing. Fast forward a little bit. The case has now been more than 3 years in the courts, and finally the attorneys. One more thing there, real quick. Very interesting. At one of the final hearings, the Attorney General brings up an email that he received the night before from the what do they call it? The placement where the kids were at in the foster home.
Okay.
Saying that my granddaughter had suddenly come forth with all this information about the alleged abuse or molestation.
Okay.
My attorneys, and they submitted it to court, and still no decision is made. And that hearing's over. We're heading to the next one. My attorneys have successfully gone to placement and gotten an affidavit that they never sent that email. It was absolutely fictitious. There was they never said anything.
Who sent?
And no repercussions came of that.
Who sent the email?
I've since learned.
Who sent the email? Who sent that alleged email?
We don't know. Well, the Attorney General presented it that the foster parents had sent it. They, in a sworn affidavit, said they did not.
So that whole story about your daughter supposedly saying something was not validated.
and in the end, two police investigations, two forensic child psychologists all came up with no evidence whatsoever. And they even put him through psychological testing to see if he was, where they showed him child pornography pictures, sent him to a psychologist. They did this, see if he was aroused during the process, and so on. It was ridiculous.
That is ridiculous. Go ahead.
Fast forward from there, the Attorney General and DCS would never come off of, their stance here. And the judge, although not finding any evidence, just let them continue. And finally, the attorneys were able to negotiate a guardianship with my sister, and the grandkids now live with them.
Okay. Meanwhile, what was happening to your son and his girlfriend? What was happening to those two?
They did very well for a year or so. They've since fallen off the wagon and are back on drugs, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's that traumatic effect that all these agencies do. I didn't mean to interrupt here for a moment, but I just want to reflect that there is a lot of emotional distraught with people, and they give up. I mean, yes, doing drugs. The problems, people don't know that you can't have children around or in the vicinity or in the home or anything because they have such a strict thing about it. And I hate to say it, is DCS or CPS or where you want to call them need money. They need money. In order to get money is to bring children in. They're not there, and they're upset. They're doing revenge because your son took those children to another state and was hiding them. And so they're very revengeful people. They don't want to help you. In your case, they were trying to do nothing but alienate you from your kids, alienate your older kids, alienate and steal your children. They stole your children. And anyway, so where you at now with this matter?
I got another history there I'll share with you if there's time in a minute.
Okay,
that was in 2000. The original case was in 2017 where they took my kids, basically, extorted me. Give me your grandkids and you have yours back. I didn't, but it was very aggressive between us, if you will. And then they came back. It was 2021, I believe, when they finally settled out of court, and my sister got the guardianship for the grandkids. Fast forward to Thanksgiving of this year. Since 2018, I've had custody of my oldest grandchild, not one of the ones that are involved in the case I just talked about.
Okay.
He had my same son and his wife at the time had lost their parental rights with CPS in California when he was 9 months old.
Okay.
And my mother adopted him.
All right.
Legally adopted him. We lived in California, or she lived in California for several years going through the process because they didn't want to do an out-of-state adoption. She finally got him adopted, moved back to her home in Kingman, Arizona. And in 2018, she died. Now, I'd helped to raise this boy since he's 9 months old. We moved to Kingman after the adoption was final, and Mom moved back here to help raise him. Then she came down with cancer. We cared for her. We lived a couple blocks apart from each other. In her will, she designated us as his guardians.
Okay.
And we have had him ever since.
All right.
He's 15 now.
Okay.
And as typical 15-year-olds do, has gotten in trouble with drugs, is not doing well at school, has problems with...
The cycle is repeating itself. Yes, I can see that.
Has problem with harassing girls. The last day of school before the Thanksgiving vacation, he came home with a restraining order against from another girl at school, signed by the police department and the principal, serving his fifth suspension of his first semester in high school. And we've been at wit's end with him, trying to get him on the right path.
Okay.
And the night before Thanksgiving, his sister, again a different, another daughter of my son's, but a different mother who no longer has custody of her. Her ex-boyfriend has custody of her. She's 11. He brings her over to spend Thanksgiving with us so she can be with her brother. We only see her a couple times a year.
Okay.
And fast forward Thanksgiving Day, I catch him and her down the street at a house where we forbade them to go. They're getting high doing drugs. And
Yeah.
long story short, I counsel him. I've never physically disciplined any of my children, grandchildren, anything else before. But over the next couple of days, he runs away a couple times, trying to have sex with a girl at the park here in town. I find him, I bring him home. Things are getting, really crazy.
Yeah.
Long story short, I take him out to the shed out back, and I spank him. Like 20 swats. And he runs away from home again. First time I've ever spanked him. Sat down, talked to him about it, told him, there's consequences for your actions. I threatened it before, I was spanked as a kid.
Yeah.
But you know what? Nothing's working, Miles. And we got to do something.
Did you ever try timeout or take away privileges?
All of those things.
Okay.
We're taking away his phone, his video games, timeout, all kinds of
Did you try to help get any kind of counseling or any kind of therapy with these young people?
We really hadn't gone that route. In retrospect, I wish I would.
Right. I'm just saying that
So,
professionals, I'm not trying to say you are not professional, you're a bad dad or anything there,
sure.
but sometimes
Sure.
professionals have a way of relating to kids and to maybe
Sure.
see them through a rough time. Being a teenager is a terrible time, and I can see, and the problem being is that there's an agency that maybe overprotects, but in this case, it looks like the kids are returning time and time to drugs. So you probably were accused of excessive corporal punishment, right?
I was charged with
Physical abuse,
initially I was charged with aggravated assault, kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, and child abuse.
Wow.
And I'm facing criminal charges now. All of that. My wife was charged with failing to protect.
Right.
And
That's what I want to say to people out there is that the DCS or CPS are responsible for, they look for areas of abuse and neglect. And areas of abuse can be physical and such. In that case, if it's not related to a sport or accidentally there, in your case, excessive punishment. It also can be sexual, where parents sometimes use the kids in prostitution or sexual gratifications. Neglect can be where they left alone or secured unnecessary or not gone to school or anything like that. I'm just trying to help out the listeners know that's why they're looking for. The only trouble is you're dealing with an agency that is not very transparent and is not very understanding, and it's like an uphill battle. So you've been with these charges. So where you at now with your case?
So the 2 days after the alleged incident, which in my opinion wasn't any of those things that I was charged with, I've seen the photos that the police department took. There's no bruising. There's, and he says right in the police report he doesn't want charges filed against me. His friend's mother is the one who called the police.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
But 2 days
Yeah, you can't be honest with the police. I'm not trying to say all policemen are bad, but there's a lot of bad apples out there. And the one golden rule I tell everybody is to get an attorney. And if you get any trouble with the law or DCS or CPS, you call your attorney first. You're entitled to one call, and that could be there before you be arrested and everything. And did they come into? Do you allow them to come into your home?
No, we didn't.
Okay.
They did. The police got a warrant.
Right.
The fact, but
yeah, they have to get a warrant. Your home is your castle, but they have to get a warrant signed by a judge.
Anyway,
yeah, go ahead.
My bail was originally set at a crazy $75,000. Eventually got reduced to $25,000. I got bailed out after serving 25 days. In the interim, well, the night that the police arrested me, my wife left with our two younger children who are 11 and 8. They were actually 7 and 10 at the time. She left with them and went to a family's house.
Yeah.
A relative's house.
Right.
She was scared. We have had CPS before, And long story short, they couldn't contact her, or they didn't contact her. They actually have a phone number that we've never seen before in the DCS report. They said they called, but it's not our phone number.
Okay.
They took custody. They took custody of the kids in absentia. They didn't have them physically, but they made them a ward of the state.
That's where they get their money. That's where they get their money. That's what they need to do. They need to grab that money. So they have to get a hold of your kids.
Yeah. And she got a phone call from an attorney appointed for her the day before the
public defenders are useless. Public defenders are useless.
Yeah.
You have to get a paid attorney.
So we turned the kids over. She turned the kids over, and now DCS is not being cooperative at all. We're doing everything we can. We've signed up for all the services they've asked for. We're both drug testing.
Have you?
We're clean. We're not on drugs.
Have you got a hold of your attorney?
And,
The attorney that's helped you on
yes,
adjudication? Go ahead.
Yes, and kind of funny, but after paying $10,000 for two different cases, $10,000 each, this time he wants 25. And he says he wants 25 because he's seen how DCS has treated our family in the past, and he's pretty sure we're in for the long haul. He wants more money.
Right. Well, it is built on a scale, but you know what? He's not the only attorney in town, and I'm going to, at this time, because my show, I have about a minute or two left here. I want to talk again about who's hosting this show. It's Vincent W. Davis. He has a law firm, Vincent W. Davis and Associates.
Before, yeah.
Okay, and I'm going to give a spiel about people calling in. He offers a 30-minute to 1 hour consultation strategy. Have you had one with him? You should.
I have not.
Okay, we need to get paper and pencil and write down this number.
Okay.
888-6582. 888-6582. When you call in, say that Bob Pace told me to call in and schedule a time of a minute to an hour, and you offer a free strategy meeting, and try to help out you get your children back and work with you. If you like what he has to say, then you can retain him, and he'll go out of state. Arizona is fine for him. He'll go out of state. He'll go to Northern California. He's a little bit more local. He's a little bit more than his local fee is, but he'll discuss that with you. You need to have a solution to this. No matter if you did something wrong or misguided or anything else, there are corrective measures you've taken. You need to bring up the point about that email that was falsified, that the Attorney General is telling that someone wrote, that alleges that your daughter wrote that she was molested by your adult son. And you need to bring that up.
Right.
You need to bring up.
And I don't know if it's a law in California, but here in Arizona, the law specifically states that in the juvenile dependency court, DCS can use and the Attorney General can use hearsay as admissible
Yes,
evidence.
that's the one of the
And
negative.
That's what we were told.
Yes, let me tell you that is true with no matter what state you're in. The big difference between criminal law and dependency court, the child juvenile law, is that you are guilty until you're proven innocent. Where all the other matters, you're innocent till you're proven guilty. So it is bad. Right. It has to be changed. I tell you what, that same number you can call in, that can also reach me. Reach my office, and you can ask to talk to the show again. I'd love to hear more for you on the show, or you can call the number you called in now and do it that way out there. But I need to end the show.
What is your show on again?
Okay, it's on at 10 o'clock every day in the morning, Pacific Standard Time, and then it's on at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time in the evenings. So it's twice a day.
Okay.
And I'd love to have you talk more about what your experiences are and how it gets resolved. But talk to Vincent Davis, and he will help you on that. It sounds like you're taking for right. You don't have to stick with the attorney you gave $20,000. You are a very good man for even coming up with that kind of money, because it's hard to come up and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and end our call here and close out the show. Thanks again.
Okay,
Daniel.
thank you very much.
You take care, Daniel. Bye-bye. Okay, we just had a caller come in, has a terrible hardship case there. He's really gotten complicated. It involves his adult son and their children and his children, and it involves drugs. And drugs is taken very seriously by CPS. And so I'm going to end this show with that. Please do not give up fighting CPS. They are not very transparent. They're not, but don't give up. You need to get an attorney. And again, I mentioned Vincent W. Davis. So please call it 888-888-6582. I want everybody to have a successful new year and a happy new year. Well, not a happy new year, but much happiness throughout the year. And this is Bob Pace saying, God bless y'all and take care. Signing out.